So, Jason Kunisch, we're talking to you again for BAM.
Yes. Hello.
Yes, hi. It was really inspiring to talk to you last time, and since our last conversation, I read that the OSHA is suspending its ruling, and I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that and how possibly your actions participated in that, contributed.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate you reaching back out and having this follow up. It's part of the evolving story for sure. And I know that even after today, there's going to be another chapter about all of this as this continues to evolve. So the original date for just to recap a little bit from the beginning, on September 9th, President Biden came out and said he's going to have a couple executive orders mandating, one of which is for companies over 100 employees, and that's covered under OSHA. The other one is for for federal contractors, and that kind of drop dead date was set for December 8th. And so originally, we at US Freedom Flyers and other groups, either private citizens or whatever, the initial response that got us all galvanized and coalescing, if you will, coming together was because of the OSHA mandate. Well, there's a couple problems with OSHA, especially when it comes to the airlines. One is OSHA doesn't have traditionally an enforcement branch, an enforcement arm. They just create these rules, and then either through fining people or selective enforcement, they go out and they do a random inspection of a company somewhere. And if that, like kind of like an audit is how OSHA does it. So now if OSHA is now in charge of having all of these new rules with this mandate, how are they going to enforce it? So they spent the better part of 2 full months, figuring that out. And they came out with this executive ruling, emergency ruling, a couple weeks ago, saying that they're going to fine people $70,000 to up to $700,000 per occurrence, per violation of these vaccines, for the mandate. So at the same time, US Freedom Flyers is getting a lot of steam. We're going to go ahead and file suit. This is all back then, a couple weeks ago, against the OSHA mandate, but nothing was really materializing up until that date. So we kind of changed gears and focused 100% on the executive order that had to do with federal contractors, because that's what was affecting most of us in the transportation industry. And so we caused a lot of noise. We called out the union leadership by name. We called out the companies by name. We called out those in the government by name, saying that you can't do this. This is un-American. It's against the civil liberties that are protected in our Constitution. It's against human rights. This goes beyond just what the United States is governed by and what's protected in our Constitution, but just you can't do this to human beings, regardless of the nation or regardless of what their citizenship is. This is inhumane, and this goes against the rights of free people, God-given rights. So we made that very vocal. And so one of the reasons, or one of the things that we were going to sue on for the OSHA mandate was that because OSHA doesn't have an enforcement arm, what they were doing is having the companies be the strong arm of the federal government. In other words, the companies were soon going to become state actors in enforcing this mandate, which is against the law in the United States. And so because of all the commotion, because of the standing up, the standing strong with our brothers and sisters on the front line, not just in the transportation industry, but also in having rallies. We've been organizing rallies in multiple cities. We've now had cooperation alliances, if you will, with different groups within the United States, one of which is NIAM, which is New Yorkers Against Medical Mandates. And they are a group of, started out as neonatal nurses, and they represent and have affiliations with the fire department in New York City, New York Police Department, nurses, sanitation workers, the like. And so we're standing together. And so the original mandate of December 8th was pushed back to January 4th, the enforcement date. And that we're seeing is a lot because people are standing up and saying, no, I'm not going to consent to this. And so what our lawyers are interpreting that as is the government blinking. The government is getting kicked back on their heels a little bit, saying, wait a second, we weren't expecting people to stand up and fight us. We were just expecting people to go along with it. Well, that's not happening. And we're happy about that, because the more noise we can make, the more peaceful protests we can have, the more we can stand up and make our voices heard. And at the same time, offer a voice for those who aren't being heard for whatever reason in this whole fight. I think the more successful we're going to be. And so now OSHA has said, we're going to put a pause on the implementation of any of these mandates when it comes to employers of over 100 employees. That's really good news, because not only does it affect those companies, but everybody knew, in fact, the government had said that after they implement this for companies of over 100 employees, they're going to implement it for everybody else as well. So this is very good news. It also helps our case in fighting specifically for the federal contractors, because the government themselves linked these two mandates together. They're almost like two legs of a person, of this mandate. So we were able to knock out the one through the court system, and we're filing suit here probably tomorrow, Monday, in a different district court to file and stop the federal mandate that has to do with federal contractors. So then the third part of the executive order was against federal employees, which is also being fought as well in court. So there's three different animals. One of them now is being dealt with and pushed to the side and paused and saying, we're not going to implement that anymore. And so we're now on to number two, which is for us, the federal contractor issue.
What do you see next calendar-wise?
Several states within the United States have sued the government, the federal government, and said, we're putting a stop to this. I know that coincidentally, December 8th is a date that a couple court hearings are happening in Florida with their lawsuit. And we have now a month, about 6 weeks now until January 4th. We expect that date to be pushed back again.
Okay.
Maybe another month or two to sometime in the spring, as the government tries to figure out how to force people to do this, which is a good thing as far as we're concerned. The government is doing that to themselves. They're putting their own temporary restraining order on their own executive mandate. So it's a win for us, for our side, and really not just for us, but all of the citizens who don't know what to do. They're up between a rock and a hard place. And so what we expect to happen is we're filing suit again, probably tomorrow. And I can't tell you too much about it until that's public.
Okay.
But once that's filed, we can talk more about that. And then again, January 4th is the big date, and we expect that to be pushed back as well.
Okay. And so when you're filing suit, you're talking about Freedom Flyers or the
right.
health?
So U.S. Freedom Flyers is working with a nonprofit organization called Health Freedom Defense Fund. And we are both Health Freedom Defense Fund and US Freedom Flyers are both listed as plaintiff in the lawsuit. So we are the ones suing the government. We are the named individuals in the lawsuit against the federal government.
Okay.
Now, everyone at US Freedom Flyers who's a member, and again, originally there's about 85,000 total that we're in contact with, but on the lawsuit, there's going to be about 35,000 or so. Regardless of the state or regardless of what the mandate is, the more people stand up and fight this, the more people say, no, I'm not going to do it, the more the government realizes they don't really have any power. This stops, all of this stops. The vaccine push, the mask push, the isolation of loved ones, the lockdowns, they stop as soon as the people of the on the street say, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to go across the street and give my neighbor a hug. I'm going to go down and buy a sandwich. I'm going to eat it in the park with my buddies.
Right.
I'm going to go to work and earn a living, and you're not going to tell me no. And the more we do that, the more we see. And even in schools, these parents, I'm a parent of 2 kids, right? They go to school, and last year, all through last year, they were forced to wear the mask, and we had our own personal problems with that. And we dealt with it as it came. And we realized that the more we made our voices vocal and louder, and we were heard by those in charge, the more we had power. And we overturned it. Now the masks are no longer required for school kids in our area. And so you're seeing that again in Florida with that mandate that you're referring to. So that's good news.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, this is great, and I think we'll keep me posted on the advances of all these suits, any other thing that come along, and we'll talk about it.
Great. I will definitely be the first call.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Take care.
All right. You as well.